How important is potassium when it comes to your blood pressure? It turns out it's very important. It helps regulate our blood pressure. And I'm going to give you some details of foods that you can eat that will increase the amount of potassium in your diet and thus decrease your blood pressure. Potassium works in two ways. The first way is potassium will help relax the blood vessels. So if you can imagine that blood vessels are like fire hoses, and if there's a lot of water going through the fire hose, there's a lot of pressure because the structure of a fire hose is very stiff. However, if you were to relax that fire hose and make it so that it can absorb the forces that are going through it, then there's going to be less pressure in the fire hose. Same thing with our arteries. In addition to that, the more potassium in your diet, the more your kidneys will excrete sodium. And sodium, for many people, plays a role in raising their blood pressure. So when they have too much salt, not enough potassium, there is too much fluid in their arteries, and thus the pressure goes up. We need 4,700 milligrams of potassium per day. That's the RDA in America. To give you an idea of how much potassium this means is, let's say you're trying to do a diet where you only eat steaks. As long as you get the steak that's grass-fed, grass-finished, the average 3.5 ounce steak has about 300 milligrams of potassium. Well, let's do some math here. If a 3.5 ounce steak has 300 milligrams of potassium, and what we're looking for is 4,700, then how many 3.5 ounce steaks should you eat? So I'm gonna do 4,700 divided by 300 is 15.5 steaks, and times 3.5 ounces, you need to eat a 54 ounce piece of steak. This is why when people go on very restrictive diets where they try to only eat, let's say, a steak once a day, very often they get things like muscle cramps, twitching, weakness of the muscles, heart palpitations. That's kind of a potassium deficiency. So we need to have a wide variety of foods that have potassium in them. You can't just eat a 54 ounce piece of steak. I can't. Maybe you can. You probably know people that can, but not the ideal way to do it. But if you want to follow these diets, then you may need to supplement. I'll put a link down in the description for a supplement that you can take on. You can get it on Amazon. No pressure, but I would prefer that people get their potassium through potassium-rich foods. So let's go over some foods. Number one, dried fruits like apricots, raisins, prunes. These have a lot of potassium in them. Second, you can have other fruits like apples, oranges, bananas. Bananas are traditionally thought of as having a lot of potassium. Of course, there's other fruits that have potassium, maybe even more. But for a lot of people, for example, myself, I like to ride bikes, and it's easy to carry bananas with you so that you can replenish all the electrolytes that you're losing through sweat. It's kind of hard to take an avocado with you in your back pocket on a long ride. Number three, green stuff like spinach, kale, broccoli. Number four, things like tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, eggplant. 5 are root vegetables like carrots, potatoes, sweet potatoes. And my personal favorite, beets. The reason I like beets so much is because not only do they have a lot of potassium, but they have a lot of nitrates, which our body converts into nitric oxide, which in addition helps lower blood pressure. Now, I realize people don't like beets because of oxalates, so if you have kidney stones, you may want to stay away from them. But if you're somewhat metabolically healthy and you don't have a sensitivity to creating kidney stones, then beets are awesome. I'll put a link down below of something that you can get on Amazon as well, and you could start taking a beetroot supplement. Very effective at lowering blood pressure. Number 6, you've got your animal proteins. Fish and chicken breast in particular have a lot of potassium. Number 7, coconut water. Coconut water has a lot of potassium in it, and it's been used recently in replenishing people who are out in the sun a lot. So for example, cyclists like myself, runners, rowers, when we're sweating, we're losing a lot of electrolytes. We're losing calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. and it just gets out of our system and we have to replenish it. Now, we used to just drink water, and it turns out that isn't good enough. You need to get those electrolytes in. So coconut water, being high in potassium, is very effective at getting a lot of potassium in our body to lower our blood pressure. Number 8, milk products like yogurt. I love yogurt. If you get a good Greek yogurt that's organic, you're gonna also get a lot of protein in that as well as potassium. These are all things that are healthy for you. Number 9 and last are black and white beans. The Mediterranean diet, which is considered by many to be the healthiest, well-rounded diet on earth, is very high in beans. Beans have protein in them, they have a lot of minerals, a lot of nutrients, but in particular, what we're talking about right now is you're trying to figure out what can you eat that has potassium in it. And if you can make like a minestrone soup with beans in it, very tasty, very satisfying. You're getting all the potassium through this wide variety of foods. So if you want to consult me, I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I've been practicing for over 28 years in Southern California. I see patients. This right here is my office. We have patients coming in, but we always section off a part of our day to do phone or Zoom consultations. We have limited areas where we can do this in our day. So we try to squeeze these in on times when I could be directly contacted with you and make sure and do a consultation and get all your questions answered. So if you'd like to contact us, my information is down in the description. Also, you can join as a Patreon to help support the channel. We always appreciate that because I do these videos during my lunch hour. And so it is a time constraint on myself. Also, if you'd like to join as a member, there are some perks of being a member on my YouTube channel. Down below, right below the video, you'll see a little circle that says join. There are 3 tiers depending on what you're comfortable with. No pressure, you don't have to do it, but there are perks of joining. So look at those, see if they're right for you. And lastly, if you really want to lower your blood pressure naturally, which I assume you do, you don't want to do it just through drugs, you'd like to maybe even get off drugs, right here on the right side is my complete guide to lowering blood pressure naturally. It's a long video, I know, but I give you all the details. Just take notes, get it organized, and get busy lowering your blood pressure naturally.